TW3 family, I am in the studios today with not only a special guest that's just going to light you up on the value of putting your content in writing, but also a great friend of mine and someone I've actually used to turn out my last book back during the whole COVID-19 debacle of 2020. We were sort of put back on our heels. We wanted to do a live face-to-face conference, but because of all the things that was going on with the pandemic, we had to forego a face-to-face meeting. And so we did a virtual conference. And through that virtual conference, I had a training I did called Warning, Opportunities Ahead. And then I met our guest, and she took what I did in that training and literally turned it into a book. And I am privileged to have Leslie Graham from turnitintoabook.com on with me tonight. Leslie, how are you doing?
Hey, Terry. I'm amazing. How are you doing?
I am better now that I'm with you. I love the books you
Likewise.
got. Yeah, I've got. I'm looking at your screen here, and you've got books in the background. What am I looking at here? Boo Boo Kisses.
So, Beyond Boo Boo Kisses, that is a story I wrote. That is a memoir. In 1996, our then 4-year-old son was diagnosed with brain cancer.
Oh.
And we went through a horrific 2-year journey. They had told us when he was diagnosed that if they could get it to go away, that any recurrence would mean certain death. So in the 1990s, they didn't have, the same possibilities they have today. And ultimately, he had 3 recurrences. And the final time, it had spread all through his brain. His spinal cord was covered with it. He was 6 years old, weighed like 30 pounds.
Oh, wow.
And the Lord had led us, we'd done some things that weren't traditional, even though I'm a registered nurse. My husband is a paramedic. And, when you're in those situations, you never know what you'll do until you're there.
Sure.
And for us, it was crazy to not do alternative stuff is so popular. It's trendy now. But in 1996, it was not cool.
You're cutting against the grain for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Ultimately, like I said, it had spread. It come back 3 times, and the 3rd time it really spread all over the place. And so by then we decided to go ahead and give radiation a try. But when they were finished, they said, there's just too much. There's just nothing we can do. And they don't announce we're sending you home to die. But I mean, when they say there's nothing else to do, you'd go home and wait. Now, I don't know if you've ever known anyone who's had cancer treatment, your listeners, but
yeah.
Usually they have a port that's implanted under their skin because they get this harsh medicine that's really hard on the veins and whatnot. So for 2 years, having that port accessed over and over and over and over again for medication or blood draws or whatever, he actually had a literal hole in his skin. You could see through and see the port. And when they sent us home, they said, listen, absolutely no water, no baths, no pools, no lakes, no swimming of any kind, no showers, no water, because all you're going to do is speed up the inevitable. That goes directly to the heart. And if you get an infection there, it's not going to be good. But our church was having a baptism service at the beach that weekend. And my husband was absolutely adamant that we go. I mean, what do we have to lose at that point?
Sure.
He was looking for things beyond this life. He wanted, a different kind of insurance. And all I can tell you is when we left the beach that day, the hole in his skin was closed. His next MRI was clean. And he's now 30 years old.
Wow.
So.
You got me crying.
So that's what this book is about, because I just gave you the Reader's Digest version, but there literally was things that up to that point in time, I would have never, ever believed that I would do, like, picketing the White House and lobbying in Congress and traveling to third world countries and all of these things in an effort to find a cure for our son. But so that's what that book is about. And then this one, Mountain Moving Mama, is also a memoir. It's somebody else's story, though. So her name is Pastor Betty Sudreth. And when Betty was young, She was married off, shotgun wedding kind of thing at 15, had 6 kids by the time she was 21. Her husband then left her for a younger woman, and she was left to survive with no education, trying to figure out, how to make it in the world. So she ended up becoming a stripper. And at the age of 37, at the height of her career, she was getting ready to be, in Vegas, and all these shows were wanting her. And she actually died from a penicillin reaction, went to hell, and came back, became a phenomenal preacher. She has ordained over 3,000 ministers. She has started 20 some odd churches all over the country. So that is her story, which is also a really good one.
Man, I'm telling you, right up in the first 5 minutes, I've been punched in the heart twice. Good night. Well, that to me, Leslie, that's to me just illustrative of this one immutable fact. There is power in stories.
Yes.
There is, beyond giving facts and figures and the scientific rationale, a story is what moves people. And of course, you've got your story, that just an incredible story. And then you're capturing the stories of others and putting it in a recorded form. And as I was preparing for and believe it or not, I do prepare a little bit. I know that's not my reputation, but but I was just thinking to myself, the value in recording these stories and these emotions and what we felt at the time and all that. And it was like the Holy Spirit was, as I was thinking about this, just led me down to a room in our basement. It's sort of like a recording studio where I call it my therapy room. It's got all of my musical equipment, my keyboard. It's got my record player. I'm old school. And over there on the shelf, I just looked up, and it was a I know when she had it. I don't know when this book was published, but it was in the early 60s. And it was out of all the things my mother ever gave me as a child, the gift that just seems like it's the gift that keeps on giving is that 1963 King James Bible that's all torn up, that was her study Bible when she was at Life Bible College. Nice. And it's got all of her little notes of what the Lord was sharing with her and telling her at that time and what she was going through at that time. And it's just like, we metaphorically say we're standing on the shoulders of people before us, but I'm literally, I'm going back and I'm like, occasionally I'll hear me say something. I was like, where'd that come from? And then I can reference back, oh, I read that because my mother went through that. And so I think what you're doing with what you've already done with your book is just, you've got a son there that's not supposed to be, that he's going to be able to go back and here's his story written down in real time by his mother. So I think that is just wonderful. Beyond yours, what you've done personally and what you've done with other people, with the other story, give me some rationale and reason beyond what I've just shared and you've illustrated. Why should that entrepreneur out there, or that person that feels like they have some ideas, they have something to share, why should they record it and put it in written form, in your opinion? I've given you already sort of mine, what it means to me, but I want to hear it from the expert here. Why should they take the time?
When it comes to entrepreneurs, usually the books are a little different. They're not quite as emotional. Yes, they have their stories woven into it, but they're almost always fall into two categories, generally speaking. One is educational, informational. So maybe they're teaching their business strategies, and in between they've woven their personal stories in there. Or it's purely inspirational, motivational. Again, they're weaving their stories into that, not told in a, like, my story in my book, in that particular book, is all story. The whole thing is 100% story. So mostly entrepreneurs don't do that. That would be more of a memoir type thing. So for entrepreneurs, it's usually, like I said, they're either motivating, inspiring their audience to take some kind of action, or they're teaching them some type of content. And so the reasoning behind that is generally maybe they're looking for more authority in the marketplace, credibility. They're looking for another revenue stream. They're looking for, it's a way to bring leads in is by offering a book. It's also a way to connect with your audience on a deeper level. So I know when you and I talked about your project, that was one of the things you really was important to you, was that you realized, and and I see this, that some people need to have something hard. I personally am a visual learner.
Mm-hmm.
You can talk to me all day long, but if I don't at least see something, I won't retain almost any of it. But other people need to actually interact. They need to write on the pages like your mother did in her Bible. They need to highlight things, and they need to activities, and they need to do things with the content. And so a book, can do any and all of those things.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And, I think in this digital age we live in, sometimes we don't appreciate that tactile pen to paper, underlining, highlighting, making the notes in the margin. Yeah, I'm a digital goofball just as much as anyone else, and I love the digital world. But there is a practical reason why having something in your hand.
Yeah.
There's just something to it.
Well, and let's not forget, without going to, I don't want to go down a political road, but
go ahead.
There's a little bit of safety and security in having a hard copy print that someone can't click a button and take away from your audience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because you own the content then. As long as it's out there in the cloud, in the mystical world, then the powers that be, big brother or big sister or big business, if you're cutting against, it's hard to cancel this out of my hand.
Right.
Once I've got it in my hand, you can't cancel this. So I concur with that, that idea as well. Well, talk to me about, a lot of people are maybe like, and I don't want to project my attitudes or mindset on other people, but I do know in my space, there are a lot of people that share this one attitude. Hey, I love creating content. Put me in front of a microphone and I'll blab forever. But you put a pen and paper or keyboard behind my hand, I'm going to freeze up because my grammar's awful, and everybody knows my spelling is it's famous. We've got a character in our business called Miss Spelling Bee. Her whole job is to, in real time, correct me when I talk to that person that's like me, that, hey, I've got some ideas, I have thoughts, I have opinions, I want to share my message with the world. But what has kept me to this point writing a book is just the actual work in writing a book. So how do you help that person?
Well, and it doesn't help that most of the industry, most of the publishing world, this in particular the self-publishing world, have this narrative about how hard it is to write a book. And that may be true if you hate writing. Most definitely true if you hate writing.
Yeah.
But the thing is, my premise is this: if you've created a presentation, if you've created a webinar, like your presentation that you had created for your event, if you've done a speech and it's recorded, if you have a series of podcasts or sermons or anything like that that's already a recorded presentation, my premise is you've already written the book. You just need someone like me to come along and clean it up a little bit and make it look good in a written format. But you've already said the words. So I know recently one of my clients was concerned that he didn't want people knowing a ghostwriter wrote his book. And I said, well, let me just give you peace. I'm not a ghostwriter. You wrote this book. A ghostwriter literally does all the writing. They interview you, they ask you some things, and they go create something. We take what you've already created, and then we just refine the words, fill in the blanks. It always amazes me the things that in spoken language, we leave so many words out, and there's so much inference in things that doesn't come across in the written word. So those are the blanks that we fill in. But other than that, you've written it. If you've spoken it, you've written it. You just need someone like me to help you clean it up and put a little writing love into it.
Yeah, and from my personal experience, I can speak with authority here because my first book, was actually me writing, sending it to an editor to edit, fix, clean up, sending it back, me writing this. And so it was very laborsome, but that first project I really wanted to have, I was scared to outsource it to someone else because I was afraid I would lose my voice and attitude and nuances on certain things. And just to give you an example, Leslie, guys, was able to take what I gave her in a audio. It was MP4 format. I basically gave her my slideshow with me talking, and she turned it into, like the website, turned it into a book.com. She turned it into a book. She cleaned it up where I was stammered a little bit with my words and uhs and ahs. All that was cleaned up. Where the grammatical errors in my speech pattern was needed to be cleaned up, she cleaned up. But my attitude and my voice stayed the same. It was literally, in my first book, I'll give you a quick example. I was talking about the reason why it's important to surround yourself with people that you want to emulate and become in that space. You want to be an authority in that space. You know, you sort of become what you behold. And so I use this phrase, and you'll appreciate this, Leslie, as a person of faith. I said, I have been always surrounded by such a cloud of witnesses. Now, you know immediately that's a dog whistle, right? That's a callback. And it was my way of giving a biblical reference without being dogmatically in your face, you know, so you know what I'm doing. My editor did not like the way that sentence sat. So every time I would get the edited version, I would see it cleaned up and that taken out and changed out. And so I would put it back in, send it back, and it would come back. And I was like, listen, some of these might not be quote unquote correct, but that's what I want. And you were able to do that. You were able to.
Because that's a different type of editor, Terry. So that's what a lot of people, when they write a book, they don't know that there are more than one kind of editor. And frankly, it's like any other industry. There are people who claim to be whatever they claim to be. So when someone just says, I'm an editor, well, I know to say, well, what does that mean? What kind of editor? What specifically do you do? So someone who is a copy editor, they want everything grammatically perfect. They're looking for the every period in its place and every apostrophe and all that. That kind of stuff drives me crazy. I'm pretty good with punctuation, but I use a copy editor after me to do that little tiny minutia stuff. And our copy editors know, they might flag something and say, did you mean to say this? But they know that we are trying to retain the voice of the client. And so we do break the rules. I mean, there's nothing that says that your book has to sound like this perfect formal textbook. Yeah. It should sound like you.
Well, you did a great job, and with this one, you kept me in my voice with all of my idiosyncrasies and way of saying things, but at the same time, made me sound like at least I had a high school education. So that was.
We do clean it up. It's not totally. I mean, just enough.
Just enough.
Take just enough rules.
So you've worked with several people that we probably can talk about and can't talk about, but you've got a who's who list. So I don't want to put you on the spot. But you come with this. Just talk a little bit about your experience, and if you don't want to mention names, because I know sometimes because of contracts or whatever, you can't name drop. But how has some people that you have worked with used your services to promote their business? Give us some examples.
Okay. So let's talk about Mountain Moving Mama, Pastor Betty. Recently, Pastor Betty was able to raise money. This woman is in her 80s, lives alone on Social Security during COVID. And she raised money and just sent $900 to a women's correctional facility here in Florida.
Love that.
So that's a different kind of business.
Sure.
But
she's making an impact.
She's able to share her story. And then when the chaplain there is very excited, when things clear up and it's safe for her to go back, she's actually going to be able to go visit the prison and teach these women. So that was a door opened because of the book.
It's still currency. That's still
right.
that's still currency, just a different kind. Yeah.
I do. I work. How would I want to say it? And it's not. I just want to respect
Sure.
people's privacy. So it's not that they would be ashamed of me, and I'm not ashamed of them. I just don't have their permission. So I will say this: I work with one of the top companies in the digital marketing space as their sole content writer, and so we do well. We do well on that team. 7
I know you do.
launches.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
selling pretty much what I wrote, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So a lot of what I've done has been like that. It's been behind the scenes. People don't know necessarily I'm the one writing the words. So I've literally written millions and millions of words for other people that a lot of people will never know I wrote. And that's okay. I'm cool with it. And maybe that was a training, for this.
Sure.
Because again, these are not, I don't take any credit for these words. Right. And, but so there's that. My mind is blank right now, Terry. Gosh.
Well, the point is, I wanted to get to my audience because we are made up with all of our guys are entrepreneurs. All of them. They're in different industries, and that manifests in different ways. But a lot of them are online. And what I wanted to draw out is if you want words that convert, because that's the thing. We want to be able to write words that will capture your audience, your avatar's heart, and have a call to action. You would not find someone better equipped and ready to serve than Leslie Graham. She's got the credibility behind her. And like I said, I wanted to leave it to you whether you mention names or not, because I don't know what agreements are in relationships. I leave that there. But I know who you've worked with, and I know the results that those companies get. And so other than books, because I know you do other things, to turn it into book, of course, is about a book. But for that digital marketer out there, that guy that's entrepreneur, just starting out, maybe you're in insurance, real estate, direct sales, but you're using maybe some of the TW3 tools and platforms. But at the end of the day, those are just tools to get your words in front of people. Leslie can help you with those words. What are some other ways other than books that you can help our clients with?
Wow. There are a lot of ways. I have a pretty extensive knowledge base, and it makes me uncomfortable talking about it.
Let me ask.
My family used to tease me that I had a mental illness related to learning, so I just wanted to learn all the time.
I'm a professional student.
The irony of that is, so I'm also a registered nurse. I haven't practiced for 20 years. To keep my license active. And when I graduated from nursing, my best friend and I, who I met in nursing school, we looked at each other and we said, well, now what? I don't want to do this.
I just want to know about it. I didn't actually want to do it.
and we decided that if we could find someone to pay us to just learn, we would be cool with that. So it took me a long time, actually. I actually do get paid to do that now, to take courses and write summary guides. So that's one thing I do.
That is awesome.
So yeah, I actually do get paid to learn now. But so because I get paid to learn, and because I've written literally about health, business, faith, I've literally written about a lot of topics. So it's fairly easy, whatever kind of written work, it's fairly easy for me to kind of be a little chameleon and scoot right in there and understand where the author is coming from. I have in the past, I've done some business coaching. I know quite a bit about marketing at this point, digital marketing in particular. I have training in web design. I could go on, but like I said, it's just going to sound like.
So if we have folks that need help with blogging, you could help.
Yes.
If we've got folks that are setting up email sequences, as we call it, fancy word, autoresponders, and they want to be able to have a series of emails go out, you could definitely help with that. Yes. If we got people that need sales letters created to go out, you could help with that.
And depending what your need is, if there is someone better suited, I have a lot of connections, a lot of friends in the industry, so I would be able to know what was right for you. I don't choose to be jack of all trades, wearer of all hats. I'm the answer to everyone's everything. I know what I'm really, really good at, which is the writing. And some of that goes into emails and marketing and all of that. And then, but other times you need somebody who really has a specialty. And so I'm able to connect you that way.
Sure. But that's the point. If you've got ideas, if you got things if you got a value proposition that you need your avatar, your audience to not only understand, but be moved by, and that call to action have the greatest chance to yield a result. That's where the words that you use and the phrasing comes in. I mean, words are powerful. I mean, the whole universe as believers, we believe, was spun into existence. And even if you don't believe like Leslie and I, you can at least understand American history. This country is nothing more than ideas that came out of the minds and the hearts of people that founded it and structured it. So that words are powerful, and the words we use and the way we frame things and use them is very powerful. And what a great resource that you could have on your team if you got Leslie Graham at turnitintoabook.com on your side. Leslie, I appreciate you being with us tonight. Is there anything else that you want to make sure our audience knows that I missed maybe?
Yeah, so we're going to be doing a low cost webinar, probably like $37, a workshop just to teach people how to either evaluate their current content. So how can I go back through my podcast or my videos and choose the one or two that are going to make a really good book? Or if you're wanting to create new content, then it'll be the same tactics can apply either way. And that way you can sort of pick stuff out and decide, if you want to work further with us and have us work with you, fine. If you don't, you'll learn exactly what your next step is and how to go about it. So we're not into the big pushy thing, but if you're interested in knowing about that at all, you can go to our Facebook page, which is Turn It Into a Book. Or if you want to go to the website, we do a free strategy call for 60 minutes to talk to you about your book. You're welcome to come and have the free strategy call. And if you don't want the call and you just want to know about the workshop, click the same button. It will lead you to questions about your book to book a call, but that's okay. Just tell us your email and you don't really want the call right now, and we'll send you the information about the workshop.
That is awesome. But the point is, you can take your ideas and have a professional come alongside you and help you articulate it in a way that's going to move your audience. And that's the thing. And it's not going to be someone that's creating the ideas. You have to come with the ideas. And I want to be clear, because I've been on record, Leslie, you might not know this, but I have been on record, and I want to make sure my audience understands the distinction. This is not someone coming in and white labeling a book for you and then you slapping your name on it. No, I don't agree with that. And the reason I don't is because, the root word for authority is author. And if you want to move an audience, if you want to be a leader in any area, you got to be an authority on it. Well, the quickest way to develop authority is become an author, and that could be in a podcast form, written form, ebook form. It can take on but when you just take someone else's ideas, someone else's words, slap your name on it, and it's already pre-written, I don't like that. I just don't think that's effective. And that's not what Leslie's promoting. Leslie's saying, hey, I will help you take your ideas and articulate them in a way that's going to serve your audience and your interest the best. Leslie, thank you so much for coming on. I'm telling you.
If I could add one more point that I thought of while you were talking.
Yeah, please.
Sometimes people hear that, okay, I can make recordings. Let me tell you just how easy it is. Terry's recording was an hour.
Yes.
Well, over an hour. You don't have to talk a long time. The length you want your book to be, I can tell you how long you have to talk. You might have to talk a couple of hours, and you don't have to do that all at one time either. But it literally is a couple of hours will turn into a decent sized book. So I want to make sure people know it's just that easy. Yeah.
Now, I'm a Southerner. So an hour for a Southerner is like what 2 hours for normal people, because we talk so slow, right? Hey, you, Leslie. But she did. She took an hour presentation that I had with a recording of a slide deck, and it's a 50-page book right there. And like I said, if I was Neil O'Reilly from up north, I would probably, this would be a 100-page book, right?
Probably.
I would give him, our buddy Neil, a little hard time there. But anyway, we do love you, Neil. He's so funny. Talking about someone that needs a book. There's a guy.
He needs the whole platform.
He does. I mean, he is a t-shirt manufacturer day after day. Zinger.
He is full of mic drop moments.
I'm telling you, I love it. All right. We'll be back right after this.